All right, good morning, good morning. Let's get started. So let's get, first of all, this most important thing out of the way. Today is May 29th. Now, I don't know if you know, but this is a very historically important day. It is the birthday of my best friend and our fearless leader, George Morris. He is 49 years today. So if you get the opportunity, light up his phone with a text or a call or a video text and just wish him a happy birthday. He is, as we all know, a very devoted man to the success of the people who are around him. And we want to wish him a very, very happy and healthy birthday. So, George, we love you. All right, let's get started. So today I want to chat with you about, I think it's a fun conversation. And for a lot of people, it's a very uncomfortable conversation. It's the conversation of money. Money makes a lot of people very, very uncomfortable. I believe because a lot of people don't have much money, and money, of course, is a very important aspect to life. And look, I'm not one here to tell you that that money is the most important thing, but when you don't have any money, money is important as oxygen. And I have been in my life in in moments where I had no money, and I can tell you what that feels like. And I am certain there are many of you watching this morning who can relate to that. I remember Johnny Depp saying one time in a news article, he said, look, money may not buy you happiness, but it'll buy you a yacht that will sell you right up to the island of happiness. And I guess his point is this: look, if you're going to go through life, why not do it with money? Because it certainly does make life easier. Because I have been broke and I've had a lot of money, and I can tell you I choose to have a lot of money. So the real question is that I have for you is, what is your blueprint? And when I say blueprint, what I mean by that is this: how do you look at money? What is the lens that you look through to judge money, or how do you perceive it? See, for a lot of people, their blueprint says that money is about luck. If you have money, you're lucky. The only way to get money is to be lucky, to be in the right place at the right time. The stars have aligned. You were born into the right family. You were born in the right place. Look, that's certainly one perspective. I don't think it is the right one. I think that there is certainly a thing called luck. But look, the fact of the matter is, I would challenge you to go up to anybody who is wealthy and tell them that they are lucky. It's one of the most offensive things that you could do. And my suggestion would be that you have a very quick path to run away, because you might find yourself being chased. The second thing that I hear a lot of people say is that, people have money are greedy, that this money is about greed, which is a very interesting concept. As a Catholic, one of the people I admire, and I don't think you have to be a Catholic to admire her, but Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa took a vow of poverty, ladies and gentlemen. She said that I am going to live with the poor like the poor, and she did. But what is interesting is that in her goal to mitigate or to alleviate poverty, world poverty, especially in India and in Africa, what she did took billions of dollars. That's billions with a B. She took a vow of poverty, and yet Mother Teresa, this woman who said, I'm going to live with the poor and be the poor, still marshaled billions of dollars to do what she accomplished. Very interesting. A lot of people look at people who are wealthy, or if you have money, that you cheated in order to get it. The only way to get money is to cheat the system, is to take advantage. That's certainly one perspective. And then another perspective is, another blueprint would be that wealth is, it's not for me, it's for other people. I was born on the wrong side of the tracks. I'm not made for that. I'm not set up for that. I don't have the abilities. I don't have the innate qualities, whatever those innate qualities might be. Look, I don't know what your blueprint is, but this conversation is about challenging that blueprint. Look, when Andrew Carnegie was a kid growing up in Dunfermline, Scotland, he had this vision, this dream that he was going to be a very wealthy man. He grew up in a one-room cottage with dirt floors until the age of 12, and then his family immigrated to the United States. And he had set this goal of being the wealthiest man to ever have existed. He was going to amass the greatest fortune that the world had ever seen. And what is interesting is that he did that. If you were to take his fortune when he sold it and the money that he got, and you adjust it for inflation, Andrew Carnegie's wealth is estimated to be somewhere between $300 and $350 billion. Now, to give you some perspective, Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, at his height before his divorce and before he split his estate with his former wife, was worth $170 billion. Andrew Carnegie was worth double that. And his goal was to give it all away. So one of the things that I want to obliterate right now is that money is a selfish thing, that it's about you. Because here's something I want to challenge you to think about. Have you ever had a homeless person walk up to you and say, "Excuse me, but I see you're having a rough day. Is there something that I could do for you? Here, let me give you a dollar. Let me give you $5. Let me give you 10. Has that ever happened to you? Now, look, I am not being critical of the homeless. You know, where I live in downtown LA, I see them every day. I live amongst them every day. And I try to be as generous as I possibly can, probably should be more than I am. I'm not being critical of them. I'm very mindful of their situation. And yet what I know is because they don't have money, they're focused on their own survival. See, that's the point, ladies and gentlemen. The less money we have, the more focused we are on our survival. Less ability we have to focus on other people. See, I think money's a great thing. See, let's be honest. Mother Teresa, as much as she took a vow of poverty and said she was going to be the poor, live among the poor, the fact of the matter is that Mother Teresa never had to worry about whether she was going to have the money to eat or to travel to the next place to implement her plan. See, what we have to recognize is that money is nothing more than a commodity. That is it. And it's a commodity like any commodity that we have to be able to afford. Not only with our time, but also with our money, because money costs money. So my question for you is, how do you look at money? You know, I grew up relatively poor. I would say that if we were to look at the world standard, I grew up wealthy, right? I mean, the poor in the United States do not compare to the poor in other parts of the world. And yet I think about the way I grew up, my father being a former convict who spent 3 years in the Utah State Penitentiary. Neither my mother or father graduating from high school, but they got their GED. Amazing, phenomenal parents, amazing, phenomenal work ethics. And yet things were challenging financially. I remember the first home that we lived in. I remember telling somebody about the home that we lived in. And my dad was standing not too far from it. I explained to them, I said, it's an 8x12 travel trailer. That's what we lived in, an 8x12 travel trailer, which if you think about it, not a bad thing if you decide to go camping, because you don't have to pack up everything and hitch the trailer and go. Everything's already packed. But my dad heard me say that the trailer was an 8x12, and he walked up and he said, "That's not true." And I said, "What do you mean? I remember the trailer. We lived in a trailer." And he said, "No, we did. We lived in a trailer, but it wasn't an 8x12. It was an 8x14. We had 2 more feet." So I stood corrected. But look, my point is, it doesn't matter where you grew up, how you grew up. The right side of the tracks, the wrong side of the tracks. Male, female, Catholic, Mormon, Buddhist, Muslim, no religion, doesn't matter. It does not matter. What matters is your blueprint and the way in which you look at money and the way in which you treat it. In other words, the relationship that you have with money. And the truth is, most people do not have a great relationship with money. So I want to share with you 7 things that I believe are the behaviors of some of the wealthiest people in the world. That if you were to take these behaviors and implement them, mimic them, that you as well could be wealthy. And what wealthy means to you and me may be different. It doesn't matter. But what I know is that if you do these things, you'll end up with more money in your pocket, in your bank account, and you'll have more investments, and the quality of your life will go up, because this is the way I look at money. And if you're taking notes, man, write this one down, because I think this is extremely critical to change your perspective, your blueprint, your lens on the way you look at money. Money is nothing more than freedom. Money is freedom. And freedom is the ability to choose. See, what I believe money gives us the opportunity to do is to choose what we want to do, when we want to do it, with the people we want to do it with, as often as we want to do it. See, that's pure freedom, to do what you want, when you want to, with the people you want to, whenever you want to do it. That's freedom. And money gives you the ability to do that. The more you have, the more freedom you have. The further you can go, the more places you can see, the more people you can help. And isn't that really what it's about? When you look at a Mother Teresa, or you look at an Andrew Carnegie, you look at a Bill Gates, you look at a Warren Buffett, you look what these people have done or are doing with their fortunes. They've amassed it and they're giving it away. So instead of making your relationship with money about you, how about you make it about others? One of my mentors said, what a great place to be both ambitious and content, to be fruitful. He says, the good book says to be fruitful and multiply. And most people got the multiply part down, especially Mormons and Catholics. But not many people have the fruitful part down. The fruitful part meaning generate more wealth than you actually need for yourself so you can go out and you can benefit the lives of other people. That's what it's about. Look at that as your relationship with money. Look at that as your blueprint, as your lens, as your perspective with money. And then I want you to think about these things. The first thing that I wrote down is this. Those who are wealthy, they make the most of their time. See, here's a little secret for you. The wealthy don't have any more time. Jeff Bezos doesn't have any more time. Warren Buffett doesn't have any more time. In fact, Warren Buffett has less time given the fact that the man's almost 90 years old, if not 90. He has less time on his hands than you and I do. Bill Gates doesn't get any more time during the day. Nobody gets more time during the day. We all have approximately 87,000 seconds every single day. But what is interesting is this. Those who are the wealthiest make more of their time. How do they do that? It starts with this. It starts with a morning routine. And on this point, I'm probably preaching to the choir. But remember, the learning process is merely remembering what you already know. It's affirming what you already know, getting greater intentional or having greater intent in doing the things that you already know you are doing or should be doing, and doing it to a higher level. Those who are wealthy have a morning routine. Look, the way you start something is normally the way that you finish. Think about it. Think about those days when you had a strong morning. You got up and you went through the routine. You listened to some great message. You exercised. You ate. You got into the office. You practiced your skill sets. You prospected. Let me ask you a question. Did that day end well? In most cases, it did, and they do. That doesn't mean that something's going to happen, that the day's not going to go off the rails, because that happens. That's called life. But the fact is that when you set a morning routine and you stick to it and you start strong, that's usually the way that you finish. You see, wealthy people understand that. So the most important part of their day is the beginning. I remember a billionaire saying one time that he only needs about 3 to 4 hours of sleep, and he consistently gets up between 2 and 3 a.m. And by the time that most people are up, he has already completed a normal person's day. Most people are just getting up, and he's already done what most people will do in their entire day. Very interesting. So look, set a morning routine. If you don't have a morning routine, put together a morning routine. Now you might say, well, I've got one. The thing I'm going to challenge you to do is refine it, improve it, double down on it. From what you're doing with your health, the amount of sleep that you get, because today started last night, what time you get up, whether you listened or watched or read something that was inspirational, positive, that created the right mindset, eating to feed your body so it has the strength to do the rigorous things, the mental and emotional things, the physical things that you're going to ask it to do during the course of the day, setting aside the time to practice your skill sets so that when you do get on the phone and talk to people, that you're better at that process, and then getting on the phone and talking to people to generate leads and then to follow up with those leads to convert leads into clients. See, that is a great morning routine. And if you do those things consistently, I promise you, you'll finish the day strong. Now, we have some days where you don't finish strong, we don't get the results that you want. Yes. But what wealthy people understand is that if they stick to a morning routine, on average, more often than not, they're going to get the results that they want over time. The second thing is this. What wealthy people do consistently is they think positively. They think positively, ladies and gentlemen. They live in the same world. See, for a lot of people, they say, well, it's easier for wealthy people because, they got money, so the things that are going on in the world don't impact them as much. Wait a minute. The fact of the matter is that those people who had money at one point didn't. They didn't get there by being negative. They've gone through the same thing we're going through, or they're going through the same thing that we're going through. Many people who are on this Zoom cast are going to be exceptionally wealthy. They're going through the same thing. The issue is, how are they responding to it? Negatively or positively? See, wealthy people think positively. They believe that things are going to work out. That's just what they believe. It doesn't matter what happens. They believe things are going to work out because they're always focused on the solutions rather than the challenges. When I ask you that question, where do you find yourself spending your time? Focused on the challenges or focused on the solutions? Look, we have to recognize the challenges, but man, if you're spending most of your time focused on the challenges and not the solutions, you're never going to be wealthy. You're never going to have the life that you say that you want. You have at some point have got to move away from your focus on the challenges and start to implement the solutions. That's what wealthy people do. People who are wealthy emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, that is what they do. See, wealthy people, in addition to thinking that things will work out, they believe that they can do it. They believe that they can do it, that it is their destiny that they're going to be successful. Let me repeat that. It is their belief that it's going to work out, that it is their destiny that they're going to be successful. Is that you? See, not just in words, not just saying it. See, I hear a lot of people say positive things, but they don't believe it. Do you believe that it's going to work out, that you're destined for success? It's absolutely critical to your success. One of my favorite statements from one of my favorite I guess I would say mentors, just because of his example, is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was famous for saying, "I am the greatest." That's what most people remember him saying. You'll in fact see T-shirts and billboards and all sorts of things with his face standing up there in that classic pose, looking at the camera, and the quote, "I am the greatest." What is interesting is that's not the entire quote. And in fact, most people miss the most important part of that entire quote. Muhammad Ali said, "I am the greatest," but he finished the quote with saying, "And I said that even before I knew that I was." Do you believe that you can be wealthy, that things are going to work out for you? It's absolutely critical. If you don't, see, whether you believe you can or you can't, either way, you're going to be correct. Are you setting yourself up for failure every single day because you don't believe it's going to work out? See, most people are afraid to prospect every single day. Most people are afraid to have the conversations about price reduction or asking a buyer to sign a buyer broker agreement. Why? Why? Why are they afraid to do those things that we know that you have to do in order to be wildly successful in the business? Because they believe it's not going to what? Work out. It's not going to work out. Why would I engage in any activity that I believe is not going to work out? See, if you believe that if you picked up the phone and people were going to say yes more often than not, would you pick up the phone? And of course, the answer is yes. Well, you would say, well, wait a minute, John. You can't believe that most people are going to pick up the phone and say yes because they don't. Well, I guess that's your perspective. You can think that way, but it's a broke perspective. It's a perspective that says it's not going to work out, so why would I even engage in the process? I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not going to do it because it doesn't work for me, because my blueprint says that it doesn't work for me. It works for other people because they're lucky or they were born on a different side of town than I was. See, wealthy people think positively. They're not controlled by their fear. They're not afraid that people are going to say no. Walt Disney talked to over 300 banking institutions and lenders before somebody said yes to him. Imagine him being afraid that people were going to say no. He would have asked once, maybe twice, and given up. And yet he didn't. Are you being controlled by your fear? See, the wealthy or not. Do you think that wealthy people are afraid? You better believe they are. Of course they are. They're human. It's very normal. It's very natural to be afraid. I want you to be abnormal, though. I want you to be afraid, but don't let your fear control you. That's what successful people do. They're afraid, but they don't let the fear control them. It's like a dance. Dance with fear. It's there. Don't ignore it. It's there. If you ignore fear, it's going to control in the dance. If you recognize fear, you take control. You lead fear through the process. Say to fear, look, I know you're there. You're dancing with me. I'm leading through the process. And dance. And go to your destination where you want to be, not just running away from the fear, not caring where you end up as long as you get away from the things that scare you. To me, the scariest thing that could ever happen to a human being is they look back at their life in their late golden years and recognize with great regret that they did not live their potential, that they did not put on the line what they should have, and now they don't have that opportunity. The greatest repository of success and ability, ladies and gentlemen, is the graveyard. Most people leave their abilities within them, never having given themselves a chance because they didn't bring to the table the right attitude, the right mindset. The third thing is this: what wealthy people do is they surround themselves with successful people. Do you know people who put themselves in a very small pond, and as a result, they look like they're a big fish? Are you one of those people? It's so interesting. People not wanting to surround themselves with people who are better than they are because their ego controls. See, wealthy people are not afraid to put themselves in situations where they're not the biggest fish. That's how they got wealthy, and that's how they'll get wealthier. Successful people are not the big fish in the small pond. They're the small fish in the big pond and in the ocean, and they continue to grow. Look, successful people are willing to be coached. They're willing to be mentored. I mean, look at it. Bill Gates is worth, last count I checked, $107 billion. $107 billion. And yet, Bill Gates has a mentor. And what is interesting is his mentor is actually worth less than Bill is. But Bill, being a mature guy, and I say mature meaning not chronologically, but intellectually, emotionally, recognizes that even though he's worth $107 billion, one of the top 2 or 3 wealthiest people in the entire world, he still recognizes that he has something to learn from other people. And so he's mentored by Warren Buffett. Very interesting. Napoleon Hill, mentored by Andrew Carnegie. It's very interesting. Are you open to the idea of coaching? See, a lot of people will say that they're open to it, but when it comes to the process of coaching, they're not very coachable. Oh, I know how to do it. I just need to do it. Or, well, that's not the way I do it. I understand you're saying that, but that doesn't work for me. So many people end up trying to change the shape of the wheel and trying to re-perfect it, that they waste their time, their energy, their effort, and their life because they never do simply accept the rules of success. The wheel is round, ladies and gentlemen. We know what it takes to be successful. Stop trying to reinvent the rules, to change the rules. Look, it's like playing a game, any game, football, basketball, tennis, baseball. You know what the rules are. You can't go in basketball, grab the ball and run across the court like you do with the football. You're going to call for a travel. Well, most people in life are getting called for a travel every single day in their job, in their relationships with their health, because they're not following the rules for success. That shouldn't be you. Can't be you. Not based upon the things that you say that you want. The fourth thing is this, what wealthy people do. They set specific goals. One of my mentors said, most people are a wandering generality. They say they want things, but they don't really know what that means. They'll say, for example, someday I want to be rich. And if you were to ask them, well, what does that mean? How much money? When would you like to be rich? What would you specifically do with that money? Specifically, with great detail, what would you do with that money? What are the challenges that are going to get in your way of actually living that life, of having that money? Who would you have to become? What are the solutions to those challenges and the person you'd have to become? And what does your daily plan look like incrementally in order to make that happen? What steps are you taking each day consistently in order to get that life? See, most people don't have those answers. They'll say things like, well, someday someday I'll have a house. Someday I'll be rich. Someday I'll go on this vacation. Someday I'll have this car. Someday I'll doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen. I've looked on a map. Someday I'll does not exist. It does not exist. You have to be specific about what you want, when you want it, what's going to get in the way, what the solutions are to those things that are going to get in the way, what your plan is, and what your daily schedule is that you're going to execute upon in order to take those incremental steps to success. See, answering the questions, what, when, what are the challenges, what are the solutions, what's my plan, and what's my schedule. See, successful people know that. It's the reason they start their day out with great intention. Remember, going all the way back, they use their time more effectively because they have a morning routine. They're very clear. They act with intention. I'm going to say that again. Wealthy people act with intention. The average person doesn't. The average person will let events come at them, and then they'll just handle them like brush fires. Whereas wealthy people will prioritize, and they will say, no, these are the things that I do first, regardless of what's happening. And then I'll get to the other things because I know what is most important to my long-term success. And therefore, I'm going to pay attention to those things first. One of the best books on this concept is called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. If you haven't read it, read it. What he talks about is this. See, most people, given the choice to eat a toad, a frog, or a tadpole, they will eat the tadpoles. And they'll eat a handful of tadpoles because it's easier to stomach popping in a tadpole once in a while. Heaven forbid that they would have to eat an entire toad. Well, the problem is that you eat a handful of tadpoles, by the end of the day, you have no stomach for the toad, let alone the frog. You're not going to eat either one of them. And so day after day after day goes by, you eat tadpoles, and you want the life that toads are going to provide. You've got to prioritize and do the high impact things first. The fifth thing is this, and we've got just 3 more, including this one. We've got 7 total. Number 5 is this. Successful, wealthy people offer more value. They offer more value. That is not a popular statement. But most people, when I say that, think, well, wait a minute. Everybody's valuable, John. Yes, they are. Everybody's valuable. Everybody's valuable in the eyes of their creator. But in the eyes of a capitalist system, where people demand value, if they're going to part with their hard-earned money, if they're going to give you their time, energy, and effort, you better offer value. And see, successful, wealthy people, that's what they do. They offer more value. They offer more value. Now, how do they do that? Let's segue into point number 6. They do that because they invest in themselves. One of their greatest investments, in fact, they recognize their single most greatest investment is investing in themselves. Because without themselves, without the knowledge, without the skill, without the perspective, without the belief, without the help, without those things, they will never achieve the things that they say that they want. So therefore, they focus on investing in themselves. They work on themselves, not just in the business, but they work on themselves. Are you working on yourself daily? Reading, watching, listening, associating, participating, exercising, eating right. Are you doing those things, investing in yourself? Nobody else is going to do this for you. You have to do it. You want a better life? You've got to invest in yourself. You have to be a better version of you. In order to get more than what you have today, you have to be a better version tomorrow to get the things that you say that you want. You have to invest in yourself. Let me give you this great example. It was like 6 years ago, I think. I was in Palm Beach, Florida, actually at a Century 21 event, George and I. And every year they give us an opportunity to, at this top brokers event, to go to some great resorts. And we went to a great resort in Palm Beach. And as we were there, they had activities that you could do. Well, one of the activities was the opportunity to go to an estate. It was a $75 million estate. Now imagine being in a home that's worth $75 million. Whatever you can imagine, it looked like that. It was fantastic. And the fact that it was in Palm Beach, you might imagine, guess where it was located? Yeah, it was on the coast. It was right on the beach. You could literally walk out of the backyard, past the grass, right to the sand on the beach. The ocean was no more than probably 40, 50 yards away from the back door of this beautiful estate. Now, why do I share that with you? I share it with you because as you walked into this beautiful estate, you walked into the courtyard, the porte cochere, and then into the kind of this vestibule with all of this leaded glass, the steel, and then you actually opened up the door, interior door of this home. The first thing that you saw when you opened up the door of this beautiful $75 million estate is, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It was a library. It was a library. And what was fascinating is, as I stood there and I looked at this multi-level library that literally where they had, you know, those ladders that run on rails, and they have rollers, and they run along the shelves so that you can get to all of the books on those upper shelves. It had that. And as I'm in awe looking at these books, there were thousands of books. And as I'm looking at these books, you could tell that a lot of them were very old, leather bound, gold gilded, and you could see that they were worn, that they had been used. And I was standing next to a woman, don't even remember who it was, but her comment was this. She said, I wonder if he's even read any of these books. And I looked at her in complete disbelief. I looked at her and I said, I'm sorry, what did you say? And she said, I wonder if he's even read any of these books. I mean, look, I mean, it looks like it's on display, like he's just showing off. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, my suspicion is that if he owns a $75 million estate, and it's one of about 10 homes that he owns around the world, that he's probably read these books, or at least a lot of them. Look, ladies and gentlemen, wealthy people invest in themselves. You have to invest in yourself. Are you being coached? I remember at one point, a few years ago, I had 5 different coaches for various areas of my life. A couple of coaches for health, a couple of coaches for business and for public speaking. And then another one for relationships. 5 coaches simultaneously investing in that. Was it expensive? Yeah, it was expensive, but it wasn't a cost. It was an investment that pays returns. Because what I recognize, I'm not perfect at it, but what I recognize is my greatest asset is me. I invest in me because my greatest returns will come from me. Are you sharpening your axe every single day? Are you investing in you? Are you getting better every single day? And the 7th thing is this, and the final thing is this, in terms of what wealthy people do to become wealthy and stay wealthy. They put their money to work for them. They put their money to work for them. They use money as soldiers to go out and fight the battles to bring back the bounty. I'll give you a great example. Experts suggest that you spend 25% or less of your household budget on housing. That's what they recommend. Those who are wealthy say spend 25% or less of your net worth on housing so that you have more money to invest long-term so that you can be wealthy long-term, to be financially independent. What is interesting is that the average person spends 37% of their annual income on housing. I looked it up to see where Bill Gates is on that. Bill Gates, remember, the average person spends 37% of his wealth or her wealth on housing. Bill Gates spends, I've got to refer to this, I got to look at it. It's 0.0005% of his wealth on housing. Warren Buffett still lives in the same home that he bought in 1958 for $31,500. Adjusted for inflation, that's $250,000. The house today is worth about $650,000 because it appreciated. But Warren Buffett lives in a house today that he spent $31,500 on in 1958, that in today's dollars is $250,000. And the guy is worth $80 billion, ladies and gentlemen. See, what that tells me is this. Warren Buffett could spend a lot more money on his house than he has. He could spend billions on a house. He could build the Taj Mahal over 100 times and live in that and still be exceptionally wealthy, and yet he doesn't. See, there's no limit to how much money you can spend. See, people will say, well, John, of course they spend just a fraction of their wealth on their homes because they're so wealthy. Wait a minute. Stop for a second. Do you realize that the average lottery winner goes broke within a 3 to 5 year period of time? The average lottery winner is many times more likely to declare bankruptcy than the average person when they have the money. So don't tell me that when you have money, it's easier, or that when you have money, you're not going to spend necessarily as much as a percentage on your wealth as the wealthy do, or the poor do, rather. It's all just a choice. Where are you going to spend your money? Where are you going to put your soldiers to work? Are you going to put your soldiers to work in entertainment, into depreciating assets, or are you going to put your wealth in place where it's going to appreciate? Look, success has rules. We've talked about 7 things. Number 1, manage your events, prioritize, and do the tough things first. Have a morning routine. Number 2, always have a powerful mindset. Remember Muhammad Ali, I am the greatest. And I said that even before I knew that I was. Number 3, surround yourself with successful people. Get mentored, get coached. Find yourself participating in things that are going to have a positive impact and help you grow. The 4th thing is have specific goals. Don't be a wandering generality. Be a meaningful specific. Know what you want, when you want it, what the challenges are, what the solutions are, what your plan is, what your schedule is on a daily basis, that incremental process, those steps that you'll take, those baby steps to become successful. Number 5, offer more value. Your value is you, guys and gals. It's you. So you have to invest in you. Invest in you. And then finally, put your money to work. You spend so much time, energy, and effort, emotionally, physically, mentally, earning your dollars. Respect those dollars. Become a steward of those dollars and put them in things that will give you great returns today so that you can live that life that you say that you want. Look, hopefully these things have been helpful for you. I'm not preaching because the fact is I don't have any of these perfected. I share these things with you because I'm reminding myself the learning process is remembering. Remember these things, implement these things, practice these things, and you will become wealthy.